What if the universe is not infinite chaos, but an echo? What if everything you know, everything you are, has already happened before and will happen again? Imagine looking out into the night sky, that ocean of scattered stars, and realizing it is not endless at all, but recursive, a pattern folding back upon itself, like a spiral that only seems to expand, yet, when followed far enough, bends inward, repeating the same curves you once thought were unique. The question is not whether the universe ends, but whether it ever truly begins. And if it never begins, then what does it mean to exist inside its endless loop? For as long as humanity has lifted its eyes toward the heavens, we have sought order in the vastness. Ancient astronomers charted the motions of stars, believing the heavens told stories, that the cycles of planets and eclipses whispered destinies. But beneath their myths lay something deeper, something eerily true. The universe does move in cycles, in patterns that return. The ancients were not wrong to see repetition. They may have glimpsed, without knowing, the deeper truth, that reality itself might be fractal, a geometry of endless recurrence where everything folds back into itself. Consider the fractal, a shape that repeats its pattern no matter how closely you examine it, no matter how far you pull away. At the edge of a coastline, the rocks crumble into smaller coasts of their own, each jagged line resembling the larger. Zoom into a fern, and its leaves replicate the whole structure. Lightning forks in the sky with the branches that mimic its parent bolt. Even the veins beneath your skin trace the same tree-like structures as rivers cutting across continents. Nature adores self-similarity. The small reflects the large. The part mirrors the whole. And if nature insists on this rule, then why should the universe itself be exempt? What if galaxies themselves are veins in a cosmic body, stars the neurons in a vast mind, and the voids between them, the silence that allows thought to occur? The human brain, when mapped, reveals a web of neural networks glowing with the sparks of thought. The universe, when mapped on the grandest scales, reveals a structure astonishingly similar. The cosmic web, filaments of galaxies strung across billions of light years, separated by dark voids. The resemblance is haunting. It is as if the mind of the cosmos and the mind of a single person share the same architecture, reflections across scale. Does this mean we are thinking the universe into existence, or is the universe thinking us, repeating its designs at every possible level? This is where the darkness begins. Because if everything is repetition, if the universe itself is fractal, then free will dissolves into geometry. You are not walking through a random sequence of events. You are tracing a line that has been drawn before, perhaps infinitely many times. Every choice, every heartbeat, every dream has already been folded into the shape of existence. You are not inventing your life. You are reenacting it. The loop has already been written. And the most chilling thought of all, you may already know this, deep down, in the way you sometimes feel déjà vu, as though your body remembers a future it has already lived. Science has brushed against this terrifying possibility in subtle ways. Einstein himself once remarked that the distinction between past, present, and future is nothing more than a stubborn illusion. To him, time was a dimension like space, and our journey through it was simply the perception of movement along a fixed landscape. If time is already written, then what is the difference between living and reliving? Between a choice made now and a choice already encoded in the geometry of reality? Perhaps the fractal nature of the universe does not only extend across space, but across time itself, looping your existence again and again. Imagine a spiral staircase that you climb endlessly. Each floor seems new, but when you look closely, the details repeat. The same cracks in the wall, the same shadows bending across the steps. That is what it would mean to live in a fractal universe. Our galaxies, our lives, even our deaths may not be linear but recursive. The illusion of progress hides the truth of repetition. And if that is the case, then immortality is not what we hoped. Immortality is not living forever in some divine state. It is being condemned to repeat forever, to walk the same spiral without ever breaking free. But perhaps there is beauty in this horror. The artist M.C. Escher captured this in his impossible drawings. Stairs looping into themselves, fish transforming into birds, transforming into fish again, infinity contained within the edges of a page. He showed us what it means to live in a world without escape. Patterns that trick the eye, worlds that collapse into repetition, forms that chase themselves through eternity. We are all living inside an Escher drawing, walking lines that fold back into themselves. The horror is not that we are trapped. The horror is that we are too enchanted by the symmetry to notice. The mathematician Benoit Mandelbrot gave us the set that bears his name, a fractal that, when magnified, reveals endless spirals, each leading to new spirals, each containing the seeds of the whole. It is a universe on a computer screen, one where infinity hides inside simplicity. Zoom into one curve, and you find another. Zoom into that, and you find another. Forever. The Mandelbrot set is not just mathematics, it is a revelation. It whispers that the universe itself might be no different, that every galaxy is a spiral inside a larger spiral, every life a loop within loops, every death only the entrance to another doorway already opened before. You may wonder, if everything repeats, then where is the evidence? And the answer is everywhere, hidden in plain sight. In the alignment of galaxies that form eerily regular structures, in the mysterious cold spots of the cosmic microwave background, as though the afterglow of the Big Bang itself carried the fingerprints of recursion. In the way history itself seems to loop, empires rising and falling in patterns eerily familiar, human struggles replaying the same conflicts, the same revolutions, the same betrayals. We call it coincidence. But what if coincidence is only the word we use for patterns too vast for us to recognize? And yet, a part of us longs for repetition. It comforts us. Music thrives on it, the chorus of a song that returns, the rhythm that loops until it feels eternal. Rituals thrive on it, birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, all circling back year after year, giving shape to the formless passage of time. Memory thrives on it, our minds rehearsing events, reliving them, replaying their images and dreams. Repetition is the skeleton of existence, the lattice upon which everything else hangs. Without it, life would dissolve into chaos. With it, life becomes a pattern too tight to escape. So, here we stand, on the edge of knowing. Looking into the night sky, we see beauty. But beneath that beauty lies something darker, the suspicion that all of it has already happened, that the stars we admire are mirrors of stars before them, that the galaxies are echoes of galaxies long gone, that even our thoughts are borrowed from selves who have already thought them. The question we must ask is not whether the universe will end, but whether it ever truly began. And if it never began, then what does it mean to be alive in its endless reflection? When you zoom out far enough, the universe does not expand into the unknown. It folds back into itself. And when you look closely enough, when you dare to peer into its smallest crevices, you see the same forms, repeating, whispering their geometry into your bones. This is the terror and the beauty of existence. We are part of a pattern too infinite to escape, too elegant to deny. And in this endless recursion, we may find not freedom, but truth. The truth that to live is to repeat, to love is to echo, and to die is only to begin again. What does it mean to stare into infinity and find not chaos, but echoes? When we imagine the infinite, we think of something unknowable, an expanse so vast it erases meaning. Yet, infinity is not only vast, it is recursive. It folds upon itself, mirroring forms, reflecting patterns. To look deeply into infinity is not to lose oneself in disorder, but to recognize that the same shapes return, again and again, like memories we cannot escape. The universe, if it is infinite, may not be a straight line into the void. It may be a spiral, a song, a structure that repeats endlessly at every scale. The mathematician's tool for infinity is the fractal. Unlike ordinary shapes, a fractal reveals more the deeper you look. At first glance, it may seem simple, almost childish. But magnify it, and new worlds appear. Curves give way to spirals. Spirals give way to forests of detail. Forests give way to galaxies of hidden forms. And at every level, the pattern reasserts itself, familiar and strange at once. This is infinity made visible. Not endless blankness, but endless repetition. Not emptiness, but echoes. Consider the Mandelbrot set. It begins with a simple formula, z equals z squared plus c. And yet, from this simple seed, an entire universe unfurls. Zoom into one of its spirals, and you will find smaller spirals, each twisting into new configurations. Keep zooming, and the patterns do not end. They only return in new disguises. The infinite is not random. It is recursive. This is what mathematician Benoit Mandelbrot revealed, that complexity can arise from simplicity and that infinity is not unreachable. It is right here, encoded in the simplest of equations. When you stare at a fractal, you are staring at the very possibility that reality itself is built on recursive rules, that the cosmos is nothing more than mathematics, repeating itself across scales. Nature agrees with this suspicion. Rivers branch like trees, lightning forks like rivers, mountains crumple like paper, galaxies swirl like hurricanes. The same motifs appear in vastly different contexts, as though reality prefers certain shapes. These echoes are not accidents. They are signatures of self-similarity, the essence of fractals written into the world. We see them, we recognize them, but we rarely stop to ask. If the universe loves repetition so much, then why would its structure end with the limits of our perception? Why would the largest scales be exempt? What if the entire cosmos is just one iteration of a fractal too immense for us to see? What if our universe itself is a detail, a small swirl in a greater pattern? In 2012, a team of cosmologists simulated the large-scale structure of the universe, mapping the distribution of galaxies across billions of light years. What they found was astonishing. The cosmic web, filaments of galaxies stretching across the void, looked eerily similar to images of neurons firing in the human brain. Two systems, separated by 60 orders of magnitude in scale, echoing the same structure, a brain of flesh and a brain of galaxies. It is not proof, but it is a whisper, a suggestion that perhaps scale is irrelevant, that the structures of thought and the structures of cosmos are fractal reflections of each other. And if this is true, then perhaps we are not observing the universe from outside. Perhaps we are the universe observing itself, trapped in its own recursion. But the fractal does not end with space. It extends into time. Ancient myths told of eternal returns, cycles of creation and destruction, ages that repeat across eternity. In Hindu cosmology, universes are born, flourish, collapse, and are born again, forever. In Mayan calendars, time itself is a wheel, endlessly circling. Nietzsche spoke of eternal recurrence, the idea that every life, every joy, every sorrow must repeat eternally, exactly as before. To modern ears, these sound like metaphors, like poetic exaggerations. But what if they were intuitions of a deeper truth? What if time, like space, is fractal? Not a straight arrow, but a loop. Not progress, but echo. Physics hints at this possibility. The equations of general relativity do not prefer a beginning. They allow for infinite cycles of expansion and contraction, universes breathing in and out like lungs. Some cosmologists argue that the Big Bang may not have been the first bang, but one in an infinite series, each universe giving rise to the next. Others suggest that black holes may spawn new universes, each with slightly different physical laws, forming a branching fractal of realities. If this is true, then our universe is not unique. It is one of countless echoes, each repeating with variations, each a new leaf on the infinite tree of existence. But what of meaning in such a world? If everything repeats, are we condemned to live the same lives forever? Or do the echoes allow for difference, for subtle changes that ripple outward? Imagine standing between two mirrors, your reflection stretching into infinity. Each image looks the same, but look closely. The reflections are not identical. Dust on the glass, distortions in the angle, small differences that grow as the reflections stretch deeper. Perhaps the universe is like this, a fractal mirror repeating not perfectly, but with variations. And perhaps it is in those variations that freedom hides. Perhaps choice exists not in escaping the pattern, but in bending its echoes ever so slightly, enough to create new ripples across infinity. Even in art, we feel the allure of fractals. Music, with its rhythms and refrains, is fractal at heart. A melody repeats, evolves, returns, each iteration both familiar and changed. Architecture borrows fractal geometry from the cathedrals of Europe to the temples of India, where arches within arches, spires within spires, create a sense of infinity compressed into stone. Storytelling itself is recursive. Myths repeat across cultures. Heroes face trials that echo each other across millennia, as though humanity itself cannot stop telling the same story in different forms. These are not coincidences. They are reflections of the same truth. The universe is not a straight line, it is a loop of echoes. But there is unease in this recognition, because if the universe is fractal, if reality is recursive, then perhaps individuality is an illusion. Perhaps we are not unique beings, but iterations of patterns repeating across scales. The cells in your body echo each other. The thoughts in your mind echo each other. The people in your history echo each other. And somewhere, perhaps in another scale of existence, another you is living, another you is thinking, another you is wondering if the universe repeats. This thought is not comforting, it is haunting. To know that you are not singular, but a reflection of something deeper, something that has no beginning and no end. And yet, perhaps this is what gives existence its weight. If we are echoes, then we are also part of something larger than ourselves. We are not isolated notes in a random symphony. We are chords resonating across scales, harmonizing with the infinite. And if the universe repeats, then meaning is not lost. It is magnified. Every action, every word, every love reverberates endlessly. Every moment you live is not fleeting. It is eternal. It will return in some form, again and again, forever. To live, then, is to echo. To love is to resonate. To exist is to repeat. So, when you look at the stars tonight, consider this. You may not be seeing them for the first time. You may not even be seeing them at all. You may be seeing echoes, reflections of patterns that have unfolded countless times before, and will unfold countless times again. The universe may not be infinite chaos. It may be infinite order, fractal geometry repeating across scales. And if that is true, then to know the universe is not to escape it, but to recognize yourself within its endless mirrors. You are not outside the pattern. You are the pattern, living, breathing, repeating across infinity. And that is the terror. That is the wonder. To zoom out far enough and to find yourself staring into infinity, only to discover your own reflection, whispering back to you through the echoes of the cosmos. What if the universe is not simply vast, but carefully structured, a lattice work of repetitions stretching across unimaginable distances? When we gaze into the night sky, it feels like chaos, stars scattered randomly, galaxies drifting without pattern. But when the map grows larger, when telescopes peer across billions of light years, a structure begins to emerge. Galaxies do not float alone. They gather into clusters. Clusters stretch into filaments. Filaments weave into a cosmic web. And in that web, we see something deeply unsettling. Order that echoes itself. A pattern that repeats like veins in a body, like neurons in a brain, like roots beneath the earth. This is the architecture of repetition. A design that suggests the universe is not infinite noise, but deliberate geometry. A fractal blueprint that refuses to end. On scales of hundreds of millions of light years, the universe reveals its skeleton. Filaments of galaxies stretch across the void like threads of light, connecting clusters at their intersections. Between them lie vast hollows, regions so empty they dwarf anything we can imagine. To stand on Earth is to inhabit a speck, inside a structure so enormous it mocks imagination. Yet, the most haunting fact is not its size, it is its resemblance. When scientists overlay the cosmic web with the neural networks of the human brain, the similarity is undeniable. Two systems separated by 60 orders of magnitude, and yet their shapes mirror each other. The filaments of galaxies trace the same curves as the axons of neurons. The voids of cosmic space echo the empty gaps between firing cells. The mind and the cosmos, reflections of each other. If this is coincidence, it is one that borders on the impossible. If it is not coincidence, then what are we to conclude? That the universe itself thinks. That we are neurons in a cosmic brain, firing signals across light years. Or that our own brains are tiny universes, fractal repetitions of a larger whole. The architecture of repetition haunts every scale. Look at the branching of rivers on Earth. Now look at the branching of blood vessels in your body. The same geometry. Now look at the branching of galactic filaments. Again, the same. This cannot be dismissed as chance. It is the signature of self-similarity, of fractal repetition. It tells us that the universe favors certain shapes, certain flows, certain architectures. It builds rivers and veins and galaxies with the same blueprint, as though it knows only one language, but speaks it across every medium. To realize this is to feel a chill, because it means that the structure of the cosmos is not alien. It is familiar. It is inside us. We are not observers of the cosmic web. We are participants in it, built from the same repeating instructions. But the architecture of repetition is not static. It is alive with motion. Galaxies do not merely sit in their filaments. They move, drawn by gravity into larger structures, collapsing into clusters, merging into giants. The web itself evolves, growing more intricate as time unfolds. It is as though the pattern is not only written into space, but into time itself. The fractal expands, stretches, reasserts itself endlessly. And if time is subject to this architecture, then our own histories may be as well. Empires rise and fall in cycles. Wars repeat themselves across generations. Human struggles reappear with new names, but the same forms. History, too, is fractal. The architecture of repetition reaches into our lives, shaping not only the cosmos, but the stories we tell within it. There is a darker implication. If the universe is structured as a fractal, then individuality may be an illusion. Just as a single neuron is meaningless without the brain, a single galaxy may be meaningless without the cosmic web. We think of ourselves as unique, but what if we are only repetitions, nodes in a pattern that extends beyond comprehension? Your life, your choices, your very thoughts. What if they are echoes of a geometry that predates you, reflections of a structure that demands repetition? Freedom would dissolve into architecture. Identity would collapse into pattern. You are not singular. You are an iteration. And yet, in this darkness, there is awe, because the architecture of repetition is not sterile. It is beautiful. It is a design so intricate it escapes imagination, a cathedral of galaxies spanning billions of light years. When you look into the night sky, you are not seeing chaos. You are seeing the stained glass of the universe, every star a fragment in a window too vast to comprehend. And just as a cathedral reflects its maker, so too does the cosmic web reflect something beyond itself. A mind, a machine, a law of mathematics that knows only to repeat. We cannot say, but the architecture whispers that meaning exists, that the universe is not random, but patterned, deliberate, recursive. Philosophers have long intuited this. Plato spoke of forms, eternal blueprints of which our world is only shadows. Perhaps the fractal architecture of the cosmos is precisely this. The forms revealed, not as abstractions, but as the very scaffolding of reality. Mystics spoke of the macrocosm and the microcosm, the idea that the small reflects the large. Perhaps they were not merely poetic. Perhaps they sensed what science has only now begun to uncover, that the architecture of repetition unites all scales, that the same geometry we find in rivers and neurons we also find in galaxies. To live is to participate in this pattern. To know is to recognize it. But the recognition brings unease, because repetition does not allow escape. If the cosmos is fractal, then even as we search for meaning, we are only repeating the search that has been made countless times before. Every discovery we make may have been made already, in some other corner of the fractal. Every thought you think may have been thought already by another you in another iteration of the pattern. The architecture of repetition does not liberate us. It imprisons us in the knowledge that we are not the first and will not be the last to live this life. And yet, what else could existence be? Without repetition, there is no structure. Without structure, there is only chaos, and chaos cannot hold us. Only repetition can. Look again at the cosmic web. Imagine standing at its edge, if such an edge could exist. What would you see? Another web, another lattice, another repetition of the same. Zoom out far enough, and the structure repeats. Zoom in far enough, and the structure repeats. The universe offers no end, only echoes. And in those echoes we find ourselves. The architecture of repetition is not separate from us. It is us, our bodies, our minds, our histories, our galaxies, each a thread in the same web, each an echo of the same form. To recognize this is to confront the terrifying truth that individuality is illusion, that freedom is geometry, that meaning is repetition. And yet it is also to confront the possibility that we belong to something vast, something infinite, something that repeats not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. Perhaps the universe does not need a beginning or an end. Perhaps it only needs a pattern, and perhaps that pattern is enough. Enough to sustain galaxies, enough to sustain thought, enough to sustain us. The architecture of repetition does not answer the question of why we exist, but it shows us how we exist. And in its endless reflections, we see a truth that is both beautiful and unbearable, that to live is to repeat, to think is to echo, and to exist is to be a thread in the fractal fabric of reality. What if time itself is not a river flowing in one direction, but a spiral, a loop that folds back upon itself? What if every second you live is not new, but a reflection of a second you have already endured? When we think of time, we imagine it as linear, a straight line from birth to death, from the Big Bang to the heat death of the universe. But what if this vision is wrong? What if time is fractal, recursive, endlessly looping back to where it began, replaying moments with the inevitability of a wheel? This is the terror of repetition extended beyond space. The possibility that time itself is trapped in mirrors, that your life is not yours alone, but an echo of lives that have been lived before and will be lived again, endlessly. For centuries, humans sensed this possibility. Ancient myths are filled with cycles, golden ages and dark ages repeating, universes born and destroyed in endless rhythms. The Hindus spoke of kalpas, cosmic cycles where the universe is created, flourishes, collapses, and is created again, each cycle lasting billions of years. The Mayans carved calendars that stretched across eons, envisioning time as circles rather than lines. The Greeks told of eternal returns, where existence itself was destined to replay, and unknown in endless cycles. Nietzsche sharpened the thought into a blade. Eternal recurrence, the idea that every moment of your life must repeat, exactly as it has, for eternity. If this is true, then your choices are not free. They are fixed, repeating across an infinite stage. You are not inventing your future. You are reliving your past. Modern physics, unsettlingly, does not dismiss this. Einstein declared that past, present, and future are illusions, that all moments exist simultaneously, laid out like a landscape through which we merely travel. Time is not a river, it is a terrain. We walk its path, but the path already exists in full, every step predetermined. Quantum mechanics complicates the picture further. Some interpretations suggest every possible outcome of every event does occur, spawning infinite parallel realities. Others suggest the wave of possibility collapses only when observed, locking time into place like a photograph taken from an endless roll of film. And in some cosmologies, universes themselves are cyclic, expanding, collapsing, expanding again, forever. Time does not end. It loops. Imagine déjà vu, that eerie sensation that you have lived this moment before. Perhaps you have. Perhaps you are experiencing not memory, but recognition. The faint awareness that your life is recursive, that you have walked these steps in some prior iteration of the loop. What if every déjà vu is a crack in the illusion of linearity? A reminder that your timeline is not a line at all, but a circle? We dismiss the feeling as a trick of the brain, but perhaps it is the brain's memory of eternity surfacing, a whisper that you are trapped in repetition. Now imagine time not as a circle, but as two mirrors facing each other. When you stand between them, your reflection stretches into infinity, each image slightly distorted, each reflection echoing the last. If the universe is fractal, then time may behave the same way. Every moment reflects itself into the next, endlessly. Each iteration is nearly identical, but small distortions grow as they echo, just as tiny flaws in a mirror stretch into strange shapes when reflected across infinity. Perhaps this explains the subtle variations in history, the strange anomalies in the universe, the way our lives feel both familiar and uncertain. Perhaps time is a hall of mirrors, and we are caught between their endless reflections. But this thought grows darker, because if time is recursive, then your death is not an escape. It is a return. You will live again, not in heaven or hell, not in another dimension, but here, in this very life. You will be born again, live the same joys, the same sorrows, make the same choices, feel the same regrets, and you will forget, as you always forget, until a flicker of déjà vu reminds you, and then it will all begin again. Immortality is not freedom, it is repetition. The greatest horror is not death, it is eternal recurrence. And yet, perhaps there is beauty hidden in this terror. If every moment repeats, then every moment is eternal. That breath you take now will be taken forever. That love you feel will be felt forever. That pain you suffer will be endured forever. Life does not vanish, it echoes. Every act reverberates across eternity. Every word spoken repeats without end. The weight of existence grows unbearable under this thought, and yet it also grows sublime. Because if you must live this life again and again, then every choice matters infinitely. Every kindness endures. Every cruelty persists. Eternity is not elsewhere. It is here. The architecture of repetition in time may also explain the strangeness of physics. Black holes, those great devourers of matter and light, are thought to warp time into loops, creating regions where past and future fold into one another. Wormholes, if they exist, might allow travel not only across space, but across timelines, moving us into echoes of reality that have already unfolded. Even the expansion of the universe itself may not be a one-time event. Some theories suggest it will halt, reverse, collapse into a singularity, and explode outward again. A cosmic heartbeat, pulsing eternally, universes born and reborn. We are living not in a line, but in the throb of infinity. The chilling thought is this: if universes themselves loop, then our own existence may have occurred countless times already. You have lived before, in universes indistinguishable from this one. You are living now, and you will live again, in cycles so vast, the mind cannot contain them. The future is not unknown. It has already happened. The past is not gone. It will return. Time, like space, is fractal, endlessly recursive, forever folding back upon itself. And if this is true, then who are we? Are we free beings carving our paths, or echoes trapped in a geometry that cannot change? Are we authors of our fate, or actors repeating lines in an eternal play? Every thought you think may have been thought before. Every word you speak may already echo in eternity, and yet, perhaps it is not futility, but grace. For in the endless loop, nothing is ever truly lost. Every love is eternal. Every moment is immortal. Every life is infinite. So the next time déjà vu grips you, do not dismiss it. Listen to it. It may be the voice of eternity, whispering that you are not at the beginning nor at the end, but somewhere in the middle of an infinite loop, somewhere between mirrors that stretch forever, somewhere in a time that does not move forward but circles back into itself. And in that moment, you may glimpse the truth, that to live is not to progress, but to repeat, that the universe is not linear, but fractal. That time itself is a mirror, reflecting your life back to you again and again without end. What does it mean to see? What does it mean to observe? We think of observation as passive, as harmless, as the simple act of looking. But what if the very act of looking changes reality? What if the universe is not what it is until we observe it? And what if the one thing the universe cannot escape is the gaze of itself, reflected endlessly in fractal mirrors? This is the observer's trap, the paradox at the heart of existence, that reality may not exist independently of observation, that everything we know is locked into place only because we are here to witness it. And if the universe is fractal, recursive, forever repeating, then perhaps the one thing that holds it together, the one thing that forces it into form, is observation itself. The quantum world whispers this secret. At the smallest scales of reality, particles do not behave like solid things. They behave like possibilities, like smears of probability spread across space. An electron is not here or there until it is measured. A photon is not a particle or a wave until it is observed. Before observation, reality is only a cloud of maybes. After observation, it collapses into a certainty. The universe is not definite until we look at it. The universe is not solid until we measure it. This is the observer effect, and it shatters everything we think we know about existence. For it suggests that the act of observing does not simply reveal reality, it creates it. But then the question grows darker. Who or what is the ultimate observer? If the universe exists only when observed, then who observed the first moment of the Big Bang? Who collapsed the probabilities of the cosmos into reality? Was it us? Was it consciousness itself? Or was it the universe observing itself, a recursive gaze stretching across infinity, forever trapped in its own reflection? The observer's trap deepens when we consider fractals. A fractal exists fully only when it is generated, when its infinite detail is rendered by calculation or perception. Before that, it is only an equation, a possibility. Once generated, its endless spirals appear, and every zoom reveals new patterns that seem both inevitable and surprising. The fractal is an infinite possibility waiting for an observer to unlock it. The universe may be no different. The cosmic fractal exists in potential, but it becomes reality only when observed. And yet, since the universe is infinite, there must always be something observing, some gaze collapsing possibility into certainty. We are not outside this process. We are part of it. We are the fractal observing itself. Philosophers have long suspected this. Descartes declared, "I think, therefore I am." But what if the universe itself could say, "I am observed, therefore I exist"? Consciousness may not be a byproduct of the universe. It may be the very mechanism that brings it into being. Without consciousness, without observation, perhaps there is no reality at all. Only probability, only possibility, only silence. And yet, with observation, reality blooms like a fractal unfolding. Awareness itself may be the engine of existence. This thought is not comforting, it is terrifying. Because if reality requires observation, then we are not free. We are necessary. We are not living beings making choices in a neutral world. We are components of a recursive trap, locked into a cycle where the universe must observe itself in order to exist. You are not outside the loop. You are the loop. You are the gaze that collapses probability into certainty. You are the reflection that keeps the mirrors alive. Without you, perhaps nothing would exist. But with you, nothing can escape. The observer's trap is the cage of awareness. To see is to bind. To observe is to trap. Think of a dream. In a dream, nothing is fixed until you notice it. The room shifts as you turn your head. The details of a face sharpen only when you stare. The dream is not built in advance. It is built as you observe it. Now, imagine that your waking life is no different. That the universe itself is a dream, not yours alone, but a shared fractal dream that collapses into form only because we observe it together. And if you stop observing, if no one looks, does the dream dissolve? Or does it continue unformed, a haze of probabilities waiting for the next gaze to call it back into being? Science, unsettlingly, leans toward the dream. Experiments in quantum physics, like the double-slit experiment, show that particles behave differently when observed. A photon passes through two slits as a wave when unmeasured, but when we observe, it becomes a particle, choosing a path, collapsing into certainty. Reality does not act until we look. The universe waits for our gaze, and once we look, it cannot return to uncertainty. The observer's trap tightens. To see is to force. To measure is to bind. The cosmos is not free. It is shackled by our awareness. And yet, this trap may be endless, because if we are observers, then what observes us? Our lives feel real, but perhaps they are collapsed into certainty only because something beyond us is observing. Perhaps we are being watched from outside the loop, and our observation is only a reflection of a greater gaze. The fractal repeats itself. We observe particles, but we are particles observed by the universe, and the universe itself may be observed by something larger still. Mirrors reflecting mirrors, awareness trapped in infinite regress. There is no first observer. There is only observation without end. The terror lies here. What if the ultimate truth of existence is not matter, not energy, not even mathematics, but observation itself? What if the universe is nothing but a fractal of gazes, each reflection calling the next into being, each observer trapped in the necessity of observing? In this prison of mirrors, freedom is illusion. We cannot stop observing because to stop would be to dissolve reality. We cannot escape observation because to exist is to be seen. We are not independent beings. We are nodes in the fractal of awareness, forever collapsing possibility into certainty. And yet, there is beauty in this too, for it means that nothing is meaningless. Every gaze matters. Every act of noticing gives reality its shape. Every choice to look or not look ripples across the fractal, creating worlds or letting them dissolve. Observation is not only a trap, it is also creation. To see is to give birth. To observe is to grant reality. We are prisoners, yes, but we are also creators. We are the eyes through which the universe knows itself. But what if the universe does not want to be known? What if, hidden in its architecture, there are regions that collapse into silence, places where observation cannot reach? Dark matter, dark energy, black holes. These may be the shadows of the fractal, the places where observation fails, where awareness cannot penetrate. They are the reminders that not everything can be seen, that not everything wishes to be observed. And yet, even these shadows exist within the observer's trap. For the moment we name them, the moment we measure their effects, they too become part of reality. Even silence cannot escape awareness. Even the unseen is seen. Perhaps this is the final truth. The universe is not infinite chaos, nor infinite order. It is infinite observation, forever folding in on itself, forever repeating its own gaze. And we, caught in the middle, are not bystanders. We are mirrors. We are eyes. We are the recursive trap through which the universe holds itself together. To live is to observe. To observe is to bind. And in this endless fractal of awareness, there is no escape. Only reflection, only repetition, only the gaze that cannot end. What lies beneath the surface of reality? When we speak of the universe as fractal, we often imagine beauty, spirals of galaxies, branches of trees, the elegance of symmetry repeated across scales. But fractals are not only beautiful, they are also monstrous. They contain infinities hidden within infinities, forms so intricate they defy comprehension, structures that twist into madness the deeper you look. The Mandelbrot set is not only a garden of delicate spirals, it is also a labyrinth without exit, a shadowed infinity where the same forms repeat in ways that become grotesque, alien, unsettling. And if the universe is fractal, then perhaps it too hides shadows beneath its patterns, recesses of reality that are not luminous but dark, not harmonious but terrifying. These are the shadows beneath reality, the unseen geometries that haunt existence. Consider black holes. They are often imagined as simple monsters, devouring everything in their path. But they are more than that. They are fractures in space-time itself, places where the rules break, where geometry folds too tightly to escape. At the heart of a black hole lies the singularity, a point of infinite density, a place where the laws of physics collapse into silence. What is a singularity if not a fractal shadow, the limit of repetition folding in upon itself until nothing but darkness remains? And yet, black holes may also be gateways, spawning new universes, generating new fractal branches in the infinite tree of existence. They are both prisons and wombs, shadows and seeds, reminders that beneath the beauty of the cosmos lies a geometry too sharp to touch. Dark matter is another shadow, invisible, untouchable. It reveals itself only through its gravity, through the way it bends galaxies into place. It is the unseen scaffolding of the universe, the hidden lattice on which the visible cosmos hangs. We cannot see it. We cannot touch it. But without it, the architecture of galaxies would unravel. Dark matter is the reminder that most of reality is hidden from us, that the patterns we admire are only fragments of a larger design. It is the shadow that holds the light together, the invisible echo of repetition that sustains the visible. And if the universe is fractal, then perhaps dark matter is simply the unseen half of the pattern, the negative space of the cosmic design, the part of the fractal that hides just beyond our perception. Then there is dark energy, the most haunting shadow of all. It is not only unseen, it is unknowable. It drives the expansion of the universe, pushing galaxies apart with a force we cannot explain. It is the silence at the heart of the cosmos, a pressure that accelerates everything outward into the void. Some call it a constant, others call it a field, but perhaps it is something stranger, a shadowed repetition, the hidden fold of the fractal that pushes everything to expand, to echo itself across infinity. Dark energy may not be energy at all, but the whisper of the universe repeating, the pressure of recursion, stretching existence ever outward. It is the force that ensures the loop continues, that the fractal never ends. Even the Mandelbrot set, the archetype of fractal beauty, contains within it monstrous shapes. Magnify deep enough, and you will find forms that twist into chaos, spirals that collapse into jagged landscapes, regions so dense with detail they feel alive, alien, menacing. The fractal is not only elegance, it is also horror. It hides within its curves endless recesses of shadow, endless patterns that feel less like art and more like nightmares. This is the truth of recursion. It does not discriminate between beauty and monstrosity. It repeats everything endlessly, even the forms that unsettle us. And if the universe is fractal, then somewhere in its infinite recesses, there must be echoes that are monstrous, realities that are grotesque, shadows that cannot be named. We sense these shadows in our myths. Ancient stories spoke of underworlds, hidden realms beneath the world we know. The Greeks told of Hades, the Egyptians of Duat, the Hindus of Patala, realms of shadow beneath the surface of reality, where the dead wandered and secrets were kept. These myths may not have been mere superstition. They may have been intuitions of the fractal shadows, the recognition that beneath the world we see lies another, darker world, repeating itself in silence. Perhaps the underworld was never a place of fire or torment. Perhaps it was the unseen repetition of reality, the shadowed folds of existence that lie just beyond perception. Even in dreams we glimpse these shadows. Nightmares repeat in loops, images twisting into distorted forms, corridors stretching into infinities that feel both familiar and impossible. The dream world is fractal, recursive, and often monstrous. It reflects the same patterns as waking life, but twisted, distorted, shadowed. Perhaps this is why dreams unsettle us so deeply, because they remind us that beneath the surface of reality lies another layer, darker, stranger, yet built on the same recursive geometry. The nightmare is not fantasy. It is the shadow of the fractal surfacing in our minds. The shadows beneath reality are not accidents. They are necessary. A fractal without shadow is impossible. The beauty of recursion requires darkness to sustain it. The light of galaxies requires the silence of voids. The elegance of order requires the terror of chaos. The fractal repeats both, endlessly. To live in such a universe is to accept that beauty and horror are inseparable, that the same geometry that paints spirals and seashells also spawns singularities in space-time. The universe is not kind. It is not cruel. It is recursive. It repeats everything, without judgment, without pause, without end. And so we stand in the light, gazing into the night sky, marveling at its beauty, unaware of the shadows beneath. But the shadows are there. They are in the dark matter that binds us, the dark energy that drives us, the black holes that swallow us, the nightmares that haunt us. They are the hidden half of the fractal, the unseen repetition that makes the visible possible. To deny them is to see only half the universe. To embrace them is to glimpse the truth. That reality itself is built not only from light, but from shadow. And the deeper we look, the more the shadows multiply, repeating endlessly, echoing into the abyss. This is the unsettling truth. The fractal universe is not a garden of order. It is a labyrinth of repetition, filled with both beauty and terror. And the further we explore, the more we realize that the shadows are not beneath reality. They are reality. The cosmos is not divided between light and dark. It is a pattern that contains both, endlessly, in every scale, in every echo. And we, trapped within it, must learn to live not only with the beauty of the fractal, but with its shadows. For to exist is not to escape them. To exist is to be them. We are the shadows beneath reality, repeating ourselves endlessly, reflections of a pattern too vast to comprehend. What does it mean that the universe repeats? For billions of years, the cosmos has echoed itself in spirals and webs, in stars and storms, in the branching veins of leaves and the neural sparks of human minds. But the most haunting reflection is not out there, beyond the galaxies. It is here, within us. Humanity itself is a mirror of the fractal universe, repeating the same patterns across generations, retelling the same myths, reenacting the same dramas, rediscovering truths it has already known. When we look at our history, our religions, our art, we see not random creativity but echoes, repetitions of the cosmic pattern inscribed into our very being. To know humanity is to know the fractal. To know the fractal is to know humanity. Myths are our oldest mirrors. From the beginning, humans sensed the looping nature of existence. In Hindu cosmology, time unfolds in cycles of creation and destruction. Universe is born and destroyed in endless rhythms. In Norse mythology, Ragnarok ends the world, only for it to begin again. In Mayan tradition, the cosmos is remade again and again, each cycle a repetition of the last. Even the Bible speaks of eternal returns, the rise and fall of kingdoms, the repeating sins of humanity, the cycles of exile and redemption. Across cultures, across centuries, the story is the same. Time is not a line, but a wheel. Existence is not a progression, but a repetition. We are not the first to live this story. We are echoes of those who lived before. Philosophers sharpen these intuitions into questions that still cut today. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence asked, what if you had to live your life over and over, every joy, every sorrow, every regret, without escape? Would you embrace it, or would it crush you? The thought experiment was not only philosophy, it was prophecy. For if the universe is fractal, then Nietzsche's question is not hypothetical. It is real. You are living your life again. You will live it again. And the weight of that truth is unbearable. But it is also liberating. For if every moment repeats, then every moment matters infinitely. Every act reverberates across eternity. Every life is eternal. Human history itself bears the mark of repetition. Empires rise and fall in cycles. Rome expands, dominates, collapses. Centuries later, Europe repeats the pattern in its colonial empires. Dynasties rise in China, fall into chaos, rise again. Revolutions erupt in France, in Russia, in countless lands, repeating the same cries for freedom, the same betrayals, the same blood. We like to believe history progresses, but it does not. It loops. The costumes change, the names change, but the drama is the same. Humanity is not writing new stories. We are rehearsing old ones, over and over, caught in the fractal of power and decay. To study history is to feel the claustrophobia of repetition, the suspicion that nothing ever truly changes. Even in our personal lives, the fractal ensnares us. Families repeat patterns across generations. The sins of the parents echo in the lives of the children. Traumas resurface, disguised but familiar. Choices repeat themselves, as though lives are scripts rehearsed endlessly by different actors. How often do you feel caught in a cycle you cannot escape, replaying the same mistakes, the same relationships, the same regrets? How often do you sense that your life is not linear, but circular? That the more you struggle against the pattern, the tighter it pulls you back into its orbit? The fractal does not only shape galaxies, it shapes your days, your loves, your failures. You are not outside the pattern. You are the pattern. And yet, within this repetition, we create beauty. Art thrives on echoes. Music repeats rhythms, melodies, choruses, each iteration both the same and new. Architecture builds arches within arches, spires within spires, fractal reflections of infinity compressed into stone. Literature retells the same myths in new forms: the hero's journey, the battle between light and dark, the cycle of loss and redemption. Storytelling itself is recursive. Every generation tells the same tales because the tales are not inventions. They are reflections of the fractal written into the human soul. We are not creating art. We are repeating the art of existence, echoing the geometry of the cosmos in words and stone and sound. Religions, too, are fractal mirrors. Rituals repeat across time, binding communities through cycles of prayer, of sacrifice, of remembrance. Every year the same festivals return, the same holy days, the same acts of devotion. In repetition, faith finds its strength. A ritual performed once is meaningless. A ritual performed endlessly becomes sacred. And what are these rituals if not human reflections of the cosmic cycles? The rising and setting of the sun, the waxing and waning of the moon, the turning of the seasons, the birth and death of generations. Religion is humanity's attempt to harmonize with the fractal, to place ourselves within its infinite loops, to find meaning in its endless repetitions. But the reflection is not only beautiful, it is also haunting. For if humanity is a fractal, then freedom is illusion. We are not inventing our myths, our art, our history. We are repeating them. We are iterations of patterns that began long before us and will continue long after us. The revolutions we fight may be doomed to fail because they are echoes of revolutions that already failed. The love we cherish may already be lost because it is a reflection of loves already lost. The freedom we seek may be unattainable because it is already written into the fractal that we will repeat the search without end. This is the tragedy of humanity's reflection, that in seeing ourselves in the infinite, we may discover that we are not unique, not free, not new. We are echoes. And yet, perhaps there is grace in this too, for to be an echo is also to be eternal. If our lives repeat, then they are not lost. If our stories repeat, then they are not forgotten. Every act of love, every act of kindness, every act of courage reverberates across eternity. We are not fleeting sparks in a meaningless void. We are notes in an eternal song, repeating forever. And perhaps the purpose of life is not to escape the song, but to sing it well, knowing it will return, knowing it will echo. To live beautifully is to create an echo worth repeating. The reflection of humanity in the infinite is both unbearable and sublime. It strips us of freedom, but it grants us eternity. It imprisons us in repetition, but it assures us that nothing is lost. Our lives are fractal, recursive, endless. We are not inventing ourselves. We are discovering the reflections of a pattern too vast to escape, and in that reflection we find both terror and meaning. We are not outside the universe. We are its echo. We are not observers of the fractal. We are its living form. To live as a human is to be a mirror of infinity, to repeat the cosmos in flesh and thought, to reflect the endless pattern that binds all things. So, when you look at humanity, its myths, its history, its art, see it for what it is. Not invention, not progress, but reflection. Echoes of infinity, patterns repeating, the fractal written into flesh. And in that recognition, accept the truth, that you are not a singular life, but an echo in an eternal chorus, repeating forever in the infinite mirrors of existence. What if the beauty of repetition hides a darker truth? What if the fractal universe, with its spirals and echoes, its patterns and symmetries, is not a canvas of wonder, but a cage? We marvel at the elegance of recursion, at the way galaxies mirror storms, at the way neurons mirror the cosmos. But what if these mirrors are walls? What if the universe repeats not because it must, but because it cannot escape itself? This is the possibility that unsettles the soul, that we are not free wanderers in a boundless cosmos, but prisoners of the fractal, condemned to repeat our lives, our histories, our choices, with no hope of release. The fractal may not be a pattern of beauty. It may be a prison of inevitability. Consider the thought of eternal recurrence. Nietzsche presented it as a challenge. If you had to live your life again and again, exactly as it has been, would you embrace it or despair? But if the universe is fractal, then this is not philosophy. It is reality. Every moment you live has been lived before. Every joy you feel has already been felt. Every mistake you make has already been made. And when you die, you will begin again, not in a heaven or a hell, but here, in the same life, walking the same path, repeating the same steps. Immortality is not freedom. It is recursion. The greatest punishment is not death. It is endless repetition. Science itself whispers this possibility. Some cosmological models describe a cyclic universe, expanding and collapsing forever, each cycle repeating the last. Others describe multiverses branching infinitely, each new universe a variation of the same theme, a fractal of realities echoing across eternity. And at the quantum level, particles exist in superpositions, possibilities that collapse only when observed, echoing themselves in probabilities until locked into place. Every level of existence, from the smallest particle to the largest cosmos, suggests the same truth. Repetition is unavoidable. The universe cannot escape its own patterns, and neither can we. The prison is subtle. We do not see the bars because they are woven into the fabric of reality itself. We think we are free because we can choose between options, because we can imagine new futures. But what if those futures are already written, already contained within the fractal of existence? What if every choice you make has already been made, countless times, by countless echoes of you, across countless iterations of the universe? You are not free. You are reenacting a script. You are repeating a pattern. You are an actor in a play that has no first performance and no final curtain. The fractal does not allow escape. It only allows repetition. Even our sense of progress may be an illusion. We believe civilization advances, that technology grows, that humanity evolves. But what if every invention, every discovery, every revolution is only the echo of one that came before? History feels like a line, but it is a loop. Empires rise, collapse, rise again. Wars repeat their patterns. Knowledge is lost, rediscovered, lost again. Perhaps even the stars themselves repeat, burning, dying, reigniting in cycles that stretch beyond our imagination. Progress is not real. It is a trick of perspective, like a traveler walking a spiral staircase, believing he is climbing higher when in truth he is circling endlessly. The prison is not only personal, it is civilizational. It is cosmic. And yet the prison is not cruel. It does not punish with malice, it punishes with indifference. The fractal has no intention, it has no mercy. It only repeats. And we, caught within it, must endure the weight of its inevitability. To know this is to feel despair. But it is also to feel awe. For if the universe is a prison, then it is the most magnificent prison imaginable. A cathedral of repetition, stretching across infinity. Walls of galaxies, bars of time, a floor of matter, a ceiling of energy. To live within it is both unbearable and sublime. We are trapped, but we are trapped inside beauty. Still, the thought of freedom haunts us. We dream of breaking the cycle, of escaping the loop, of reaching beyond the fractal into something new. Myths are filled with stories of escape, heroes who descend into the underworld and return, prophets who glimpse eternity and break free, seekers who transcend the cycle of rebirth. Buddhism speaks of samsara, the endless wheel of suffering, and nirvana, the escape beyond it. Gnosticism speaks of the prison of the material world and the liberation of the spirit. These are not merely spiritual yearnings. They are the cries of beings trapped in a fractal, yearning for a way out. The myths of escape are the shadows of a deeper truth, that the universe is a prison and freedom may be impossible. Perhaps even our dreams of escape are part of the pattern. Perhaps every desire for freedom is itself scripted, already written into the fractal, destined to repeat endlessly with no true release. The prisoner dreams of breaking the bars, but the bars are the dream. The loop contains not only our actions, but our longings, our rebellions, our despairs. To yearn for freedom may be no different than to live, to love, to die. It may be only another echo, another inevitability, another pattern repeating. And so, the prison holds us tighter, because even our resistance is repetition. Yet there may be meaning in the prison. If we cannot escape, then perhaps the purpose is not to break free, but to live beautifully within the loop. If every moment repeats, then every kindness is eternal. If every act echoes, then every cruelty reverberates forever. The prison may not offer freedom, but it offers responsibility. To live is to carve echoes into eternity, to create patterns worth repeating. If the universe cannot escape itself, then perhaps meaning is not in freedom, but in resonance. To exist is to harmonize with the fractal, to live within the prison with dignity, with beauty, with love. And still the question remains, is escape possible? Are there cracks in the fractal, anomalies in the repetition, glitches in the loop? Some cosmologists point to strange alignments in the cosmic microwave background, to unexplained cold spots, to the mysterious axis of evil that defies expectations. These may be hints of something beyond the fractal, signals of a larger reality into which the universe is embedded. Or they may be illusions, tricks of perspective, repetitions we do not yet understand. The prisoner peers at the walls of the cell and imagines cracks, but the cracks may only be shadows of the bars. Escape may be a dream that repeats like all others. The fractal prison is not a place we can leave. It is existence itself. It is the recursion that binds galaxies and thoughts, atoms and lives, histories and futures. To live is to serve a sentence written in geometry, a punishment without crime, a loop without exit. But within the prison there is also wonder. For the bars are stars, the walls are galaxies, the echoes are symphonies of existence repeating forever. To despair is natural, to marvel is inevitable. For in the end, the fractal does not care if it is a prison or a paradise. It only repeats. And we, caught within it, must decide how to bear the weight of eternity. If the universe is a fractal, endlessly repeating itself in echoes without end, then the most haunting question arises. Can there be cracks in the loop? Can an infinite pattern, bound by its own geometry, ever falter? Can a prison built from repetition ever betray itself? We imagine fractals as perfect, but perfection is an illusion. Even within the infinite precision of mathematics, there are anomalies, regions where the pattern folds in unexpected ways, zones of strangeness where repetition warps. And if the cosmos is fractal, then perhaps it too contains fissures, fractures in the geometry, cracks in the loop that hint at something beyond. Cosmology has already shown us whispers of these cracks. When scientists mapped the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang, they expected to see smooth randomness, a statistical scatter of hot and cold regions. But What they found instead were anomalies, a vast cold spot larger than any theory could predict, strange alignments of cosmic radiation along what some call the axis of evil. These are not mere imperfections. They are breaks in expectation, signs that something deeper may lurk beneath the fractal surface. They may be the fingerprints of another reality brushing against ours, the cracks through which a larger truth leaks into our loop. The universe pretends to be seamless, but the cold spot whispers otherwise. Galaxies too betray the pattern. Most align in ways that conform to cosmic structure, yet strange superclusters defy explanation. Giant walls of galaxies stretching billions of light years, larger than any theory says should exist. These structures are cracks in the loop, their enormity hinting that our models are incomplete, that the fractal is not as uniform as it pretends. When we gaze upon the Sloan Great Wall, a ribbon of galaxies spanning unimaginable distances, we feel awe, but also unease, for such structures should not exist. They are deviations, anomalies, fissures in the repeating design. They are cracks that ask whether the fractal might one day break. Even in physics, cracks appear. Quantum mechanics tells us reality is built on probabilities, yet certain events, rare, inexplicable, defy even probability. Particles behave as though nudged by invisible hands, anomalies that do not fit the script. Perhaps these are not errors, but glimpses of another layer of recursion, another loop intersecting ours, a reminder that repetition is never absolute. Even the most precise equations allow for strangeness, for exceptions that slip through the cracks. Reality itself may be porous, leaking whispers of what lies beyond. Human experience, too, betrays cracks in the loop. Déjà vu. That uncanny sensation of reliving the present may not be illusion at all. It may be the echo of repetition breaking through consciousness, a crack in the illusion of linear time. Synchronicities, moments when coincidences feel too precise to dismiss, may be another kind of fracture, glimpses of the underlying geometry aligning too visibly. Dreams that predict, intuitions that prove true, lives that feel fated. These may not be mysteries of the mind. They may be signals that the loop is not seamless, that it carries imperfections through which deeper truths bleed. And history, though bound in cycles, sometimes ruptures. Revolutions do not always repeat their patterns. Discoveries emerge that rewrite the script. The printing press, electricity, the splitting of the atom, moments when humanity leaps beyond expectation, breaking the cycle, fracturing the repetition. Are these accidents, or are they cracks in the fractal, anomalies that allow something new to emerge? If the universe is a prison of repetition, then perhaps these are jailbreaks, brief escapes through fissures in the wall, moments of freedom before the cycle reasserts itself. But what do cracks in the loop mean? Do they offer escape? Or are they only distortions, false promises of freedom within a prison that cannot be broken? Perhaps the cracks are not exits at all, but glimpses of higher-order repetition. Fractals within fractals, patterns beyond our comprehension. To see a crack may not mean to escape. It may mean only that the prison is larger than we thought. The cold spot in the sky may not be a door. It may be another room in the same labyrinth. The déjà vu may not be freedom. It may be the memory of another loop. The revolution may not break the cycle. It may only reset it. The fractal is patient. It repeats even its own anomalies. And yet, the possibility of escape lingers. If cracks exist, then perhaps they lead somewhere. Perhaps they reveal that the fractal is not infinite, that repetition is not absolute, that beyond the loops lies something else, something unbound. Mystics have long spoken of enlightenment, transcendence, liberation from cycles. They claimed that through vision, discipline, awakening, one could step outside time, outside repetition, into freedom. Were they deluded? Or did they glimpse the cracks? Did they find the fissures in the fractal where freedom leaks in? Perhaps nirvana, heaven, liberation are not fantasies. Perhaps they are exits, the rare cracks in the prison of recursion. Perhaps the fractal can be escaped, but only through cracks too small for most to see. And if cracks exist, then what lies beyond them? Another universe, another fractal, or something unimaginable, something without repetition, something truly new? We cannot know, for we live within the loop, and the loop blinds us. The prisoner cannot imagine freedom until he steps outside the cell, but the cracks haunt us. They remind us that perfection is false, that repetition may not be endless, that perhaps even the infinite can break. The cracks are hope, but they are also terror. For if the fractal breaks, then everything we know, laws, patterns, identities, may dissolve. The prison may collapse not into freedom, but into nothing. So we search for the cracks. We build telescopes to map the sky, particle accelerators to probe the quantum, philosophies to question eternity. We dream, we wonder, we despair. For deep down, we feel the truth. The loop cannot be perfect. The fractal cannot be flawless. Somewhere, somehow, it must falter. And in that faltering, there may be freedom, or annihilation, or both. The universe repeats. The fractal endures. But within it, faintly, barely cracks appear. And through them, we glimpse something beyond. The question is not whether the cracks exist. The question is whether we can ever step through them, or whether they too are only echoes, repeating endlessly, illusions of escape within a prison that has no end. If you zoom out far enough, the universe does not expand into infinity. It folds into a mirror, and in that mirror, you see yourself. This is the last reflection, the final echo, the moment when all the patterns converge. For 9 segments, we have traced the fractal, galaxies spiraling into neurons, time looping into itself, myths repeating across cultures, histories echoing their own collapse. We have walked the labyrinth of recursion, felt the beauty of repetition, feared the prison of inevitability, searched for cracks in the loop. And now, as we arrive at the end, we must face the most haunting truth of all. There is no end. The universe does not conclude. It repeats. And you, watching, listening, living, are part of that repetition, the final reflection in the fractal mirror of existence. Consider what it means that every structure, every story, every life echoes itself. It means you have been here before, not figuratively, not metaphorically, but literally. Every breath you take has already been taken. Every thought you think has already been thought. Every moment you live has already unfolded in countless loops of the fractal. And when you die, you will begin again, reliving the same sequence, with the same joys, the same sorrows, the same regrets. Immortality is not freedom, it is repetition. The afterlife is not elsewhere. It is here forever, replaying the same life endlessly. We search for meaning in this truth, and it cuts both ways. On one hand, repetition is despair. It denies freedom, denies novelty, denies escape. You are not writing your life. You are rereading it. You are not climbing toward the future. You are circling the same staircase forever. This is the tragedy of the fractal universe, that progress is an illusion, that freedom is geometry, that individuality is only iteration. But on the other hand, repetition is grace. For if your life repeats, then it is eternal. If your joys repeat, they are immortal. If your acts of kindness echo, they echo forever. The fractal imprisons, but it also sanctifies. It robs us of escape, but it grants us eternity. Every moment matters infinitely because it will return again and again without end. This is the paradox of the last reflection, that despair and awe are one. To know the fractal is to carry unbearable weight and sublime wonder simultaneously. The prison is the cathedral, the loop is the symphony. The bars are stars, the echoes are sacred. You are trapped, yes, but you are trapped inside beauty, inside eternity, inside the endless repetition of existence. What could be more terrible? What could be more divine? And yet, even here, questions remain. Are the cracks in the loop real? Are there ways to escape? Mystics have promised liberation. Philosophers have imagined transcendence. Physicists have searched for anomalies that betray the repetition. Perhaps nirvana, enlightenment, the end of suffering, is the discovery of a way beyond the fractal. Perhaps the cold spots in the cosmic background, the anomalies in quantum behavior, the moments of déjà vu, are whispers of something outside. Or perhaps they are only illusions, repetitions of the dream of freedom, echoing endlessly like everything else. The loop even repeats the hope of breaking the loop, and so the prison holds. But even if escape is impossible, there is still responsibility. For if your life repeats, then every action reverberates across eternity. Every cruelty echoes forever. Every kindness is immortal. The fractal may trap us, but it also demands we live with care, for the echo of our lives will return without end. To know the loop is to know that nothing is fleeting, nothing is forgotten, nothing is lost. all of it will repeat forever. And in that repetition lies both judgment and grace. Look again at the cosmic web, the lattice of galaxies stretching across billions of light years. It is not random. It is not chaotic. It is a mirror of neurons, a reflection of rivers, a fractal blueprint repeating across scales. And within it, you are not an observer. You are a node. You are not outside the pattern. You are the pattern. The universe is not a stage on which you act. It is a mirror in which you reflect. Every breath, every thought, every moment is the universe knowing itself through you, repeating itself in you, reflecting itself endlessly. And so, we arrive here, at the last reflection, only to realize there is no last. The universe will not stop. The documentary will not end. You will not escape. You will hear these words again someday in some loop, in some life, and you will feel again the chill of recognition, the weight of déjà vu. And in that moment, you will know. You have been here before. You will be here again. The universe is not infinite chaos. It is infinite recursion, and you are its echo. So what do we do, knowing this? Perhaps we do what we have always done. We tell stories. We repeat rituals. We sing songs that return to their chorus. We fall in love again and again, even knowing it will end, even knowing it will repeat. We build cathedrals of stone and cathedrals of thought, structures of repetition that echo the geometry of the cosmos. We search for cracks. We dream of freedom. We despair of the prison. We marvel at the beauty. We live, and in living, we repeat. And in repeating, we live again. If you zoom out far enough, you see it. The universe folds into mirrors. The mirrors fold into echoes. The echoes fold into you. And in the end, there is no end. Only the last reflection, which is always the first. Only the echo, which is always the original. Only the loop, which is always eternity. You are not outside the fractal. You are its living form. You are the pattern repeating. You are the last reflection.